Wow.
Wow, this is some really deep stuff.
I don't know what just happened, but something happened inside of me. Something snapped, something.
I wasn't expecting that
either. Sorry.
It's okay. It's all right. It's beautiful.
Monster is like really small, but it had to become that to stop me.
And then the hurt child became present when you mentioned it.
And I didn't realize this until now.
There were things that I didn't remember until now.
Funny. I haven't seen that before.
It feels like I'm the monster. I'm kind of seeing images of things. Of a world where they can exist. This clarity brings all kinds of answers.
It's clear. She hugged me and then went back to her place, I guess, in my heart. Oh, it wants to come out. It wants to bippity boppity boop Cinderella me. She's melted into my chest. It's ooey gooey.
All week been finishing things, cleaning up more, started eating vegetables again last week. And it kind of just started happening. It's almost like I just finished going through a meditation session.
I feel light. When you hit that first joint, in the morning, and
I actually feel a lot more awake.
How's Vietnam?
It's beautiful.
The pictures are amazing.
Yeah, I got a bunch.
At those cafes, you have just these expansive views. Are you on a balcony? I couldn't even.
Oh yeah, I started to. This is just independent houses on the side of the mountain.
And are you inside when you're taking the picture?
No.
It's outside on some kind of covered porch, or.
Yeah, they're yeah, I would say the buildings, a lot of these buildings, they're not, they're kind of just open. They're open buildings, just open to the elements, sort of, because it's always t-shirt weather, or at least temperature. It rains, it gets rainy, but it stays 75 year round here somehow.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so nobody
What's
has...
the rain like?
Oh, well, when I first got here, it rained every day for 10 days. And I just thought, uh-oh, I made a mistake. Because it's not just it rains every day. It's it's you don't get to see the sun for days at a time. And it rains every 5 minutes. And you can't even go for a walk around the block and trust that you'll stay dry if it's not raining. So that was kind of, I didn't know it was quite like that, but that chilled out after that first period. And yeah, I think that's somewhat expected during the rainy season here, which is 3 months, but I can drive an hour and be in a different climate, or I can just find other things to do besides going to coffee shops.
I kind of like that. I kind of like that kind of rain. I mean, I've had it in Indonesia and Thailand. Mm-hmm. It's just there's something. Well, first of all, it's the greatest sound to sleep to.
True. Yeah.
And then I don't know, there's something kind of cool and romantic about it or something.
Yeah, I was determined to embrace it and enjoy it and be I can I can handle some rain, but really when it
Yeah,
was like I haven't seen the sun in a week or more,
that's
it
true. That's
really did
true.
get kind of depressing.
Okay. So it's not
Yeah.
like sun showers where the sun's out and then
Mm-mm.
it just builds up and crashes. Okay.
Mm-mm.
Okay. Um,
Yeah.
but then it cleared up.
Yeah, it's been good since then.
Um, and are you seeing your pals, like people you met last time?
Yeah, yeah. I have acquaintances. Went to the beach with a few of them recently. Yeah, socialize every day. Went to a
Oh,
concert.
that's
Uh, Outdoors. It's really cool because like if like a famous like the most famous Vietnamese singer is going to come to our
oh,
town a few times in a year and
oh, really?
play at the coffee shop. Yeah, because it's such a small country. I
Yeah,
and I never thought about that. Like where I live, you know, I have to drive 6 or 8 hours if I want to see like a AAA act, like they're not coming to
yeah, yeah,
Charleston ever, you
yeah.
know. um,
Right.
I have to go to Atlanta. It's like the closest like big city.
Yeah.
But here it's like, yeah, there you can
Oh,
see them
that's
as often as you want,
so
you know.
that's amazing. Right.
Yeah,
So it's like it's really good, interesting culture and small towns,
yeah,
which just like is really hard to find.
yeah, yeah. She was playing at a coffee shop on the side of a mountain, you know.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow. Is she good?
so good. The
Oh,
it
oh,
took
that's
I
great.
couldn't figure it out,
What's
but it's just I think the kids here have a really different musical education where it's like the music here, the pop music, the stuff that's winning their version of American Idol. It's
yeah.
like all of these artists are writing all their own songs. They're
Okay.
all multi instrumentalists, and all of their
Oh,
songs are like more complex and interesting and jazzy and like just better than shitty pop music on the radio in America, in my opinion.
okay. You might need to send me her name and so I can get into some Vietnamese music. That
Okay,
sounds good.
great. Yeah, I got a few of them now.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I interrupted you. You were talking about your son.
Oh, he's in India again and it's raining
Hmm.
there.
Hmm.
But I think somewhat similar kind of rain, but it seems to have cleared up also.
Yeah. Yeah. Otherwise, things are great. Beautiful.
Um, how are you sort of staying connected to IFS, like doing it yourself, like doing solo work or?
Mm, I don't have quite the discipline that I had at home. I don't know.
Well, you're probably I mean, it sounds like it's a more extroverted period of your life.
Yeah. Yeah. And I really was kind of in just survival mode for a few weeks because of trying to like establish this home that I'm in and have
Yeah.
the things that I need to be comfortable. And it's really challenging to acquire some of those things and
Yeah.
just yeah, being not just a tourist. It's like, okay, what's the
Right.
solution? What's the longer term solution I need for these problems? And I have to go spend a day figuring that out.
Like getting electricity and Wi-Fi and everything, and like are those?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of creature comforts that I'm having to either go find the thing or like figure out what the locals are doing to solve this problem of like, okay, so no one has a dryer, but it rains every day, and you're all on
Oh,
mopeds, and you all drive mopeds. Like, what? How do we?
right. Is there just like more ease with being wet, or what do they do?
I'm still solving that.
Still figuring it out.
Yep, yep.
Um, Yeah, that's interesting. I like the expression creature comforts. I love that expression. It's so
Mhm.
good.
Mhm.
And is there like, I mean, there's not there is a washing machine, just
Yeah, I have
not
a
a
washing
dryer.
machine. Yeah, I could get one. I could get like a tabletop kind, like they have in a lot of other Asian countries I know, for example. But no, the sun started coming out, so that's sort of solved.
So
But
thanks. So you're to a clothesline.
uh-huh, uh-huh.
Ah, nice. Um,
Yeah,
yeah. So I'm glad you're back on doing a little bit of live IFS again. It's
me
great.
too. Yeah, me too. And I opened my calendar, and everyone came and signed up, and that was nice.
Yeah, people are super happy that you're back, or at
Yeah.
least available again.
Hmm. Yep.
And you've missed doing it too?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I wish I was able to get to it sooner.
Is it is the survival mode thing is interesting because I feel like I've never heard you like so engaged in the real world as that,
Uh-huh.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Were you able to use it? Like, remember one time, a long time ago, I said like something on the fly, and you were like, I am never on the fly.
Right.
It's like, I love
Right.
that. But it now sounds like you probably are somewhat on the fly. And
Yeah.
how has it affected, like, have you found ways to do IFS around survival mode?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean it's still an automatic process for me, more or
Right.
less.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like things are challenging here, but they're not they're not I'm not like upset by much.
Yeah.
I'm not getting again the rain thing did have me kind of bummed out. Um and yeah, at the time I was like, okay, well, I guess I just picked the wrong place. Like this is not gonna work. But I did some research. It's like this will pass in a little while, and it has. And other than that, yeah, I'm not I haven't had a lot of like any crises kind of feelings or anything.
Yeah. Well, rain is a perfectly reasonable thing that like any warm-blooded creature is going to like be
Yeah.
made uncomfortable by, right?
Yeah.
So it's not, but it sounds like you're not like making additional problems, which
No,
is
it
the
doesn't
kind
feel
of
like
thing,
that.
like, you know, like
Yeah.
you could have blamed yourself or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
No,
I
it's
mean, maybe, yeah,
well, I didn't have much else to say. Just uh I've been happy, and I like I like all the challenges. The problem solving is fun. It's growth, and it doesn't feel really high stakes. Everything here is really inexpensive, so
right.
there's ways to solve problems. A lot of it's like another example is just like food. It's
Yeah,
just here. It's I can eat out every meal, and think I think that's pretty normal, and it's just an adjustment there too.
yeah. You mean to just get used to eating out every meal?
Yeah, and get used to like I'm coming home from the gym, and I'll stop at three different places because I'm gonna pick up some roasted duck on the side of the road here. You can get half a roasted duck with a salad and like three sauces for 6.50. I can eat roasted
Oh my
duck every
God.
day. It's crazy.
Yum.
It's like, yeah, why am I cooking?
Right. Something
You know,
that's a
like
treat. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. That like I
Um,
would probably have once a year.
right. Me too.
Um,
Me too.
but wait, what did you just say? Oh, the gym. Are you going to a gym there?
Hmm. Yeah.
What's it like?
It's nice.
Just like seems like Equinox or something? Or
I
is
don't
it
know
its own
anything
kind of
about Equinox.
whatever,
It's
just
a,
any chain gym,
it's
24
definitely not a
hours.
chain. There's not a lot of chain anything here, which is another thing I really love. I couldn't stand in America when I go travel from one city to another and it's all the exact same stores. It's just
Yeah.
like, why?
I don't mean is it an actual Equinox or 24-hour fitness. I just
Yeah.
mean is it arranged like that? Or is it like do they
Yeah, I
have
guess.
different kinds of okay. Um
They do have some funny old school equipment. Like, do you know the classic um like the rubber band around the waist and you stand there and it
of
shakes
course.
you? They have
Oh
that.
my gosh, my mom did that in the
Yeah.
70s. Oh, that's
Yeah.
so funny. I was thinking about that. I don't know what it's called, but I was thinking like that's like I don't know if what it is like to stand in it, but it must be like relaxing or something because it clearly does not
People use it.
work
People
you
are over
out.
there using it. So yeah, I'll try it out on my next go. I'll get back to
Definitely. What if it's like amazing and works so well and we've been
you.
laughing at it?
Yeah,
Um,
it does look kind of nice.
um, that's hilarious and
Hmm.
great. Is it big? Like things like that? Like
The
are
gym,
there
it's 2 stories
yeah.
and I don't know.
Oh wow.
It's crowded if there's more than 20 people there. But
Totally would not have thought that like gym life would exist in Vietnam. I don't know why.
yeah, there's some jacked dudes in there and people to show me how to do the thing right. So it's good.
Do people do mixed martial arts?
I don't know. I did see yesterday there was a woman there who was boxing for like an hour. She was throwing punches. It's exhausting just
Whoa.
to watch.
Like
Complimented her.
into a happy bag?
No, into some trainer.
Oh, into a person.
Yeah.
Um, wow. Well, all totally fascinating. I hope you're like not just taking a lot of pictures, but just writing a lot of stuff down.
Mm. No, I'm not writing.
I always want to make you write. You're just like not doing it. Well, if you think about it, if you think of it, making notes in handwriting is always a good idea,
Okay.
in my experience.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. That's my update. I'm trying to think if there's much else.
That's a lot of update.
Yeah.
How do you feel about how you left South Carolina? Like, did you feel like things were
It
in pretty good
seems to be,
shape?
yeah, it seems to be working. Haven't had any disasters.
That's amazing. No, like
Houses
calls
being,
at 4 a.m.
no, no. My neighbor called me yesterday to tell me that he's got honeybees on his porch and he wants me to come get them. So I'll have to send someone in my place to do that. But no, that's been the biggest emergency from back home.
Did he not know you were there? Like you
Yeah,
called your cell phone?
Yeah, I didn't tell I didn't tell all my neighbors. I just told
Oh,
one.
right.
Yeah.
Okay. And so does he still think you're not know where you are?
Right. I was like, I'm out of town.
Okay. I'll have someone go over. That's pretty
Yeah.
crazy that you are that we could do that now.
Yeah.
Like he's not even calling long distance.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I don't know how that works. I think anybody who has an iPhone can install
Yeah.
iMessage or whatever, and that's
Right.
I don't know.
Honeybees sounds pretty good in non-emergency.
Yeah. Yeah. No, business is doing fine. Business here is interesting.
All right. So teaching, or
No,
are you not?
I'm doing rental, like doing kind of like an Airbnb thing, which is way too much work, and I probably won't continue it, but it was a good experiment.
You mean there
Yeah.
in Vietnam?
Mhm. Yeah, I wanted
So
to
like
see if I
not,
could do the same. I wanted to see if I could do rental properties here, what it would take.
and you say it's more trouble than it's worth?
At least this particular model that I tried that seems popular. I mean, I'll work all day for like $20. It's just there's not money in
Right.
it. It's so yeah.
Yeah, good experiment, and also you got to know the country better.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Excuse me. I'm back. I don't really have a cough. I don't know where that came from.
Okay. So you want to do IFS?
Yes.
Okay. So I can have a minute of meditation.
Yes.
Okay. I'll set a timer. We can get into it.
Excellent. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. All right.
All right.
So, do you have any parts you'd like to get to know better or change your relationship with?
I don't know yet.
Okay.
I might need to talk a little bit and help
Great.
you. I mean, maybe you can identify things.
I'd love to.
So things are pretty tranquil.
Mhm.
I told you my father died.
Mhm.
That was a little bit more than 3 weeks ago.
Mhm.
And it was just the hospice had been 10 months. It was like a very soft landing, and it just was very peaceful and time, and um just nice goodbyes, and
Mhm.
he was very productive during the hospice. He wrote a memoir.
Wow.
We had a party the weekend before he died, that he had a good time at, and all these
Wow.
people got to see him, and yeah, it was wild. And there was a jazz band and dancing, and this requiem that he loves, and we tried to make it not like unnervingly like a living funeral or whatever, but it was
Mm.
like we just considered it a celebration.
Mm.
And yeah, he just like said some beautiful things when he was like sleep talking between life and death, and
Mm.
it was just great. It was good,
Wow.
and everyone after, there's just a feeling of, oh, and an owl showed up that we've never had an owl anywhere in our town neighborhood, like just never seen an owl. And
Huh.
this owl just came and sat for an hour
Really?
in our backyard. Yeah.
And you could just see it sitting there.
Yes. And he was
Wow.
just dressed in like a tweed basically. It was a barred owl,
Uh-huh.
and I'll send you a picture. It's just so beautiful. And my dad wore tweed all the time. So it's just so clearly seemed like my dad. And I mean, so much that it was like, oh, that's not a symbol. That's just like dad. That's where he
Yeah.
is.
Wow.
And it was really nice. And since then, there's just been so many sweet connections
Mm.
with like, I don't know, whatever's next, plus just him. Like, he's just around. I just talk to him, and also my mom was super stressed during the whole hospice and seems somewhat more relaxed now, and that was really hard to manage.
Mm.
And I was getting the 24-hour care, and so there were a lot of people to manage, and it was so expensive. It was like by the end, it was so expensive. And then finally, and then after he died, it like suddenly was not expensive, and I was surprised at how like shockingly cheaper it was. And there was just a lot of feeling that, yeah, I mean, my dad had always said like too much money is spent keeping like white men in their 80s alive for a minute longer.
Sure.
You know, that could be spent in better places, and we were definitely spending a lot to keep him alive. And just also, you know, I tried to understand what the nurses did by like learning a little bit how to do bed turning and bed level care, which is like, it's pretty demanding. I mean, I woke up, I did 2 wake ups with my dad, and I was like, I think I have caregiver burnout. Like, I know it's supposed to take a month, but I think it took me 2 hours. So yeah, so I did really respect what they did. So there was that. But anyway, those things were kind of relieved. And then my brother and I flew up to be with my mom for a while after he died. And I guess the only thing that sort of went off the rails, but it was pretty significant, is just my relationship with my brother is always has I don't know, just always has some undercurrents and tension, and something that I don't know, I think I have a very pessimistic view of it. Like, we've done there've been so many apologies and blow-ups, and it just seems like something that I don't know if I don't think it can resolve or if I don't want to resolve it. Like, I just feel like this is what it is. And, you know, he tends to, or there are these big outbursts. He like called me names, but then he wants to say like, I didn't mean it after. And I'm like, you've said all these names. They are there, and they've been over years. And that's just like built in now to our interactions. You know? Like, there's not like a peaceful place where there's no problem between us that we'll ever really get to. But it's rough when it blows up. And I mean, I can sort of tell you just so that you can see what parts are getting activated.
Yeah. Is he older or younger?
Maybe he's younger, we're very close in age, like 20 months apart.
Okay.
So there are 2 sort of major examples. One seemed small, but it's that for Mother's Day, for Father's Day, I got my dad this little device where you can, because he couldn't really get to the window to look at birds, so you can see the birds that are in your bird feeder on your phone, and the bird it's pretty cool, and the bird like comes up and taps again, like you see the bird much closer than you would. And we also like rigged it so that finally no squirrels would get on the bird feeder, and we were like, we just had made it so that it would finally be the perfect bird viewing thing. And if you couldn't get to them, it's like motion activated, and it was, you know, like, so even, and also it's like I have it at a distance, so even if I wasn't there, you can see like a goldfinch just came. Anyway,
sounds like a really sweet gift and really awesome.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, thank you. Well, so one of the standing stories in my family that definitely my brother has is that I like tech too much. Like that, you know, I spend too much time on screens, or I don't spend enough time in nature or whatever. And so I my sister-in-law, his wife, said, will you set up my phone so I can see like the goldfinches and stuff? And my brother got really angry. He wasn't part of the gift. My brother got really angry and said, I like to see birds like live or none at all.
Okay. Yeah.
And I was a little bit like, it's just a little intense, you know? But I was like, well, it's not a moral issue. I mean, you can go out and look at the birds or whatever. I just like how close you can see them. And then he seemed like he seemed to me like he was in sort of a high-pitched ideological battle in his head that he wasn't talking about. And then somehow the idea that I'm like too techie also is like, I don't know the word for it, but I can see how he sees me. So like,
And this is a moral kind of, there's something,
so he's very just truly insanely physically fit. Like he does this fitness competition, and he's in his age group like number 3 in the world, and this like anyway, it's bizarre how much time. And so he's just like drinks like protein drinks and is never not in the gym, and that's really important to him. And he like there's no like, it can't be like a joke or anything. Like it's just really serious. And and he's mad if like anyone says like, do you really need to go back to the gym today? Like twice in one day or whatever. And it's a thing. It has to happen that way. And somehow that also means that like there are all kinds of like disciplines and practices aside from tech that he thinks are kind of like lesser, or I don't know. And he like has a real regimen. And one of the things is anything to do with money, like organizing it or planning or doing your taxes, or, like that's like somehow unnatural, or I don't know exactly how he sees it. But we were trying to talk about, speaking of rental properties, a rental property that my dad had asked me to take care of. And so my brother's also an actor. He and my dad did a lot of acting stuff together and singing and performing. And my dad and I tended to do more work stuff. Like he made me his literary executor. He made me his, put me in charge of these properties. And so I was trying to go over some details, or he asked for me to go over some details with him of this one property. And I said,
your dad
this
asked,
is good
or
because
your brother?
No, sorry, my brother said, okay, I said, we need to talk about a few things. My dad had asked me to take care of this one property. I didn't know that my brother was anywhere in the equation, but he wanted to know something, or I started to talk about it. And then I said, well, I'm glad we're all talking about this, because it was a bunch of us, including my mom, because this property is some distance away from us. Should we get a property manager? Because I don't think I can fly down there very often. And Dad's been relying on like the neighbors to come show the place. And, there's an old listing, and I think we could do better. I think we do more. On the other hand, maybe property managers are bullshit and we can just do it ourselves. And I just wanted your opinions. And he was like, well, what all needs to be done? And so I started to explain, and I'm going to spare you all the details, but very well, the details are boring and extensive, and they're to do with like, we need a new dishwasher. Do we need new pictures of the place to put it on new sites and charge more? Or do we care about, right? All these things. But like, while I was saying them, I was clearly getting like, I've been doing this for months. There's a lot, of bullet points in my head, and I can go through them. And and so I think something tripped a wire in my brother that said, oh, she's just being officious or self-important or naming too many detailed things, and it can't be true, and everyone should just do a bunch of ayahuasca and not care about it. At least that's how
right. Yeah.
And, like, why can't we just lighten up? And so he said, well, it sounds like it's pretty laissez-faire, so I don't think we need a property manager. And I was like, okay, wait a second. What you mean is I should just keep doing those things. Okay. If you want me to keep doing those things, then there's a travel budget because this place is in flying distance from me. And I will have to go down and do those things or hire a photographer or is it on whatever. Can we not even talk about whatever? Anyway,
Right.
then he was like, you're getting too hung up. This is just your grieving process. You're anxious, you're going crazy, you're whatever. And it just honestly felt like yeah, and he was like, you're making mom really anxious. I don't know. I instantly missed my father because you can have, or I felt in the moment like I could have a non-emotional conversation with him about money. Like there was no, or this building, there was no emotional subtext. I really didn't think that we were talking about anything but whether to get a property manager. But somehow, anyway, he was like, later he told me that I'm not a good compassionate leader, that his wife, who's an astrologer, is a compassionate leader and like talks people through workshops really well and is kind, and I was not compassionate, and even like my husband is better, and that I turned the temperature up really fast. And while he was saying this, he's like straining and looking like, I mean, he used to just hit and bite me so much when we were little. And then it turned into just, yelling at me that I'm an asshole, yelling at me that, just yelling. And so he was telling me that I was turning up the temperature at the same time. I just feel a little scared of his body because he's so built and he's like so bulging with veins. And I mean, at times I think he's very bright and manic. And so I don't know. So I felt sort of threatened, but I also felt like I was being accused of being aggressive.
Yeah.
And I wondered if I was aggressive, like, had I been? And I think that's like, I'm really getting back in that moment, which now was itself 10 days ago. But it did take me a while to, kind of go back from it. And, I sort of thought when he and I resolved it, the best I could do of IFS on my own was to say that I have a part, tell myself and some version of this to him, that I have a part that feels like my contributions aren't good enough. And so that like maybe I wasn't doing enough for this house. And when he said it sounds like a laissez-faire situation, like this can take care of itself, I was like, yeah, just shut up and keep doing what you're doing, kid,
Right.
And don't talk about it. And, and also if we don't need a property manager, that means that whatever I'm doing is not not a lot, or like not valuable, or at least that's how I thought.
Right.
And he said, well, that he'd been thinking a lot that he's a failure. I wasn't totally sure how to connect it, but I mean, we definitely can touch those parts of ourselves. But it's just
he shared with you
amazing.
that he thinks sometimes he's a failure.
He's a failure. I think I sort of understood that. One, he had worries of being just left out of the inheritance of the property, which isn't true at all. And two, that he feels like dad wouldn't have trusted him to do these things. And so he felt left out. And then he asked me to like give him assignments of things to do. And I've started to do that, but in a sort of, well, I just feel like it's like I'm trying to find make work so that he feels included, because, which is bitchy, but that's the truth.
Okay.
But no, there are
it's not the first thing that came to my mind that it would be bitchy, but I hear you.
Well, you know what I mean? Like where, like I was sort of thinking one problem between the two of us is like he thinks I don't trust him to do things. And the truth is I don't trust him to do things. So we're sort of aligned, if I'm honest with myself. I I'll say like, can you, get mom to DocuSign something,
Mhm.
and then I instantly am like, oh, there's no way he's going to know about the software, the thing, whatever.
Right.
And then,
Right.
and then I'm like, why don't I just do this? But anyway, but
Right.
I did. He did end up doing the DocuSign thing, and I saw it going on out of the corner of my eye, and I was like, oh my god, this is taking 90 minutes, but I'm just gonna let it go.
Uh-huh.
So I don't know. That's kind of where we are.
Yeah.
I mean, I think some IFS around my brother is probably a good something we haven't focused that much on. So
That's right.
sort of good spot.
Cool. I took notes and I have questions.
Okay.
And yeah, we can find the parts in there and see how to speak for them or what they need. I do have one question. Have you ever been in business? This is a family business now. Right?
Yeah. So yeah,
Mhm.
my dad was, I mean, I know this is so much your life. My dad, it wasn't his primary work, but he did end up buying some properties, and he totally handled all of it himself.
Mhm.
So the last few months I've been like trying to reverse engineer like what he does with him before he, stopped being coherent. So he, introduced me to the tenants, introduced me to the groundskeeper people, you know what I mean? And I figured out I'm supposed to be paying everyone and all that stuff.
Have you ever been in business with your family like this before?
Oh, no way. Not even close.
No way.
Yeah.
No way you would never sign up for something like this. Would never
no,
something that you
no, I mean, I guess that's the first time I've heard anyone describe it that way. I mean, you're right. That's what I'm in. I guess I didn't know that I was in it now, but I don't have strong feelings about it because I've just never done it.
Right.
But I mean, I think like I've collaborated with a lot of people, maybe some with my son, but yeah, I have not. Yeah, like yeah, I mean, my brother's instincts and kind of scare me in this department. Like,
right.
He like took a bad check for a car a few years ago. Like, I just feel like he's,
you don't trust him to handle this stuff.
I kind of don't.
Yeah.
And I don't know what to do with that.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. I'm just checking in with all of my parts that have. I mean, I've always considered every business I've owned to be a family business, basically, and that's how I describe them when I'm talking to accountants or anybody else. It's like,
right.
That's what I'm dealing with. Even in my partnerships, it's like, well, and I'm dating my partner, and we live together.
Got it.
So,
yeah. What does that mean, a family business? I mean, this is the first I've thought of myself as being in one.
And before what I'm doing now, I was like always working with my dad on he built houses and I painted those houses and and we've had other businesses that I've started and brought in my family members on. So
wow.
What does it mean? It means when I use it, when I'm telling people that, again, I'm telling an accountant that, it's my shorthand of saying like, oh, we do a lot of things. We have a lot of bad habits is basically what I'm trying to signal when I'm telling them that. It's like,
that's really smart. Yeah.
We have a bunch of handshake agreements and a bunch of emotions involved. And here's why we're not doing this the normal business way, because it's a family business.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess like the upsides are that there's usually like a natural hierarchy, right? Like usually if my dad were alive, he would be in charge. And I guess one thing we don't have is that. And then there could be a level of trust that means people don't like betray each other. And those two things seem pretty good, but for me, having not done it, I don't. It just seems like all downside. Like,
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I'm just really, um, it feels like when there's work to be done, it feels really stressful to have to watch out for everyone's feelings. Like,
Of course.
I don't want to
Of course.
allot, right? I don't
Yeah.
like, and you know how you just look at some people and they're just like, yeah, we got to paint the north side of the house. And then you look at
Mhm.
another person and they're like, you're going to let him paint the north side of the house and not me or
Yep.
whatever,
Yep.
And
Yep.
I feel like my brother is in that second thing. And he's always
Mhm.
reminding me that, like, to pay more attention to emotions and be more sensitive emotionally to things, where it just
Mhm.
seems like I don't even know what that would do if I was sensitive to emotions when I'm trying to get a house painted. I just don't know.
I
And
feel you.
maybe
Yep. It's
okay,
it's a
okay.
position
Maybe
I'm
I'm like
often in.
missing.
Mhm.
Okay. Good. Well,
Mhm.
let's go with it because maybe I can find some self energy and compassionate leadership in a situation like that. If it looks like I'm going to be leading, which I've
Yeah.
never done, like led a family project.
Mhm. Yeah. Okay. I agree. We're looking for the compassion and the compassionate leadership and what that would mean and what parts get in the way.
Yeah. And also, I guess, does compassionate leadership just mean um, putting aside practical considerations in favor of kind of watching out for everyone's emotional state?
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So again, I'm checking in with all of my parts that just want to give business advice. And
Well, maybe we'll do that separately because I could use
yeah,
that too for sure.
yeah, yeah. And we'll look for parts that
Okay.
parts that interrupt, interfere, or come up um, that make it hard to find that compassion.
Yeah.
And again,
Yes.
compassion doesn't. I guess to I don't know. Earlier, you're like, well, is compassion not doing this and just taking care of everyone's feelings? And I think that is still the hypothesis that we should be investigating what it means to be compassionate.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Are there any? So I have my list. I've taken notes. I have parts that have jumped out to me. Is there any in particular that you feel like you already know might be at the front of the line?
Um, I want to hear from you.
Okay. Okay. Well, hmm. there's parts. There's your parts that are uh, attending to the relationships, and then there's your thoughts, parts, feelings about the business.
Right.
So I'm kind of seeing those as obviously there's tons of overlap, but that's one of the distinctions I'm kind of thinking about is how do you feel about the project and the business and all of that um,
Hmm.
compared to what comes up for you when your brother says you're not a compassionate leader, for example.
Right. So I am super excited about um the project
Mm-hmm.
and some of the real estate stuff and other stuff like just um other stuff that he was doing and that I as I said, I reverse engineered with him, and he showed me like how he's been doing it for all this long, which means like, ridiculous stuff like when I update a password, I put it in a folder called updated passwords.
All right.
My Word document buried on my computer.
Right.
And like, and just trying to be like, you know what I mean? And just trying to think like, oh no, he has two-factor identification for this bank account, and I need to get his phone, and I don't remember or I was never given this code, and blah, blah, blah. Like all that's been the last few months, and it's been kind of comical, kind of fun. I mean, he's 85. Like, of course, he has bonkers ways of organizing folders and stuff, but also he's established all these great relationships of like, I was like, and how do you find new tenants for this one thing? And he rents to students, and the students just give it to a friend, give it to a friend, give it to a friend. So he never, and I was like, God, that's awesome. Like, you've been doing that since the 70s. That's so great. And there's also like an offer for a sale on a property. So, we might, like, the co-op board is like fielding offers, and it seems like a whole lot of interesting stuff to learn. And also it just seems like, I don't know, it feels like it is what it is thing. Like, oh, I can use my brain to figure this out, and like I'll make some mistakes along the way, but it seems like a new realm to explore.
Yeah.
Then
exciting.
Then and then my brother seems to be like standing in the way of the fun thing that I want to do, which is like look at the little BirdFi machine to look at goldfinches, or try to figure out if we get more rent on this property by getting better pictures. And it seems like there's this fun activity that I would be perfectly happy if anyone wanted to join, but I can't understand why that activity is being re-described to me as like me being like power grabby or something else, like something bad that I can't quite explain. That's like not in nature, not compassionate. So I would love to get to the project, but then I was like, there's some moral valence to me doing those things that's like could really crush my enthusiasm.
Okay.
Because there is some world where I thought they would, is some fantasy world where I thought that, my brother might be like, wow, thank you so much for taking this on, because I do not like this stuff at all. And I know that all of us will benefit from the proceeds of the sale. So I'm so glad that you are fielding these offers in this way, which is very complicated, and putting a lot of work into it and making us money. But no. So, and it's not just neutral, like, oh yeah, keep going. It's something else. It's like, you're doing it wrong. You're not leading right. You're not doing XYZ with me.
Yeah. Right. Okay. So you have your parts that are excited about the learning and all of that. And they're butting up against his parts that are not excited about it and sound like, well, the ones that are being negative, not showing you that appreciation, but also it just sounds like he doesn't have that same. He's not excited about it. He's not as interested in learning and contributing and
and also I would love it if you said that,
right. Yeah, well, you just said also like you would just love it to just be appreciated for what you're doing.
Appreciated or left alone. Appreciated or left alone.
Yeah.
Either would be fine. Yeah. But also, there's sort of like in my brother's eulogy for my dad, there's some idea that like my dad was controlling and sort of like snip snap, like everyone has to do stuff for me. And he, um, yeah, like, get me some coffee, fix this, do this, whatever. And I sort of tried to call attention to how much my dad was also doing, so
Right.
that like where one of us brought him coffee toward the end of his life, he had like been, you know, saving a lot of money for us, and other things like that that were complicated and had all these bits and pieces. But I think that my brother just sees that as like horrible patriarchy or something, as opposed to like actual achievements that once you try to do them, they're hard,
Yeah.
like his, yeah. And now I think that some of that is on me, like, oh, she's just anyway, it's the same thing I said. Like, I'm on a power trip, not I'm actually trying to do something.
Yeah. Yeah. So he didn't have, he also wasn't appreciative of what your dad was doing and how he did it. And now now you're in that role, basically.
Exactly. And a lot of his defining himself has been like, I don't have to do things the way my dad does. Like, I can be more sensitive and more in my body and do more plant medicine or whatever. And and there is Charlotte looking at her, birds through a screen or whatever. I don't know. And that's not embodied. And then also just, I mean, like, I don't know. I'm giving you too many details, but he lives in California with his family, and they have this kind of groovy hippie life. And he thinks that like the East Coast is just people are too uptight and, like whatever, that he grew up in this world that was like not embodied and stuff. So now I feel like I'm a little bit like, when he does therapy, it's very much around fears about what he's accomplished, fears about how much money he's made, and that kind of thing. But in it's place, he's put like a whole new ethos about like self-discovery and physical exercise and and so, but then he wants to sometimes enact that thing all over again. And I'm usually on the losing East Coast uptight asshole up to the East Coast side.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So if he did leave you alone in it, then that feels like that would work for you. Like those excited parts of yours would get to do what they want to do. And
yeah, I think so. I mean, yeah, I think, yeah. I mean, I would still delegate, which is why I like the idea of, for at least the property that's far away, getting a property manager. I wouldn't do all of it by hand, and my husband can fix things. So at the more local property, he intends to fix them. It's not like I would do it all myself, but yes, kind of overseeing it feels like.
And you wouldn't be delegating to him, which is something earlier you said you kind of just doing out of, because you feel like you want to include him, but then you also said it feels bitchy to give him.
Well, also like, like it sort of feels like saying to a child, like, yeah, you can do part of it too. Bring the tomato over to the counter. Thanks for helping. But as the more I think about it, if we're just doing problem solving, I sort of assigned him this DocuSign thing. It took a long time, but as long as I wasn't really looking, I could. He got it done, and I would grow to trust him. Like the more he did those things. And he does actually, when I ask him to do a very specific thing, he does figure out how to do it. He can't like see it from a bird's eye view, but he does do that. So one thing I imagine that does seem kind of exciting is relying on him for, like, he likes making phone calls. He likes seeing people in person. So some of those things maybe, like more, like he's social. So maybe like meeting the tenants or hearing them out or whatever, things that I might like less, is something that he could do. And so it sort of seems interesting to think of, like, what could I assign him?
Yeah, I was just gonna ask
And then maybe that would build trust.
feels, how that feels to you. Like, sort of seems interesting. I'm guessing there's parts of you that are not looking forward to, uh, doing that management.
Yeah. I mean, maybe if it could happen over email, so there's not like a question of tone or less a question of tone. And yeah, I mean, there are things that definitely bother me. Like, he said he really wanted to help with this one project. And that, I said, okay, yeah, I think you should take it. Cause I was like, I don't want to get in any more trouble for this. So I put him on the email threads, and then he just didn't answer or move, like, I don't even know if he opened the email. And so then I realized that I would have to say, you see what he's asking for in this email, like, we need to find out this whatever ACH information. And but I need to find a way, I don't know. Yeah, so I can imagine it would just have to be me bird dogging really closely,
Right. Managing.
Like, okay, yeah, managing, you're right. But like, okay, can you have that done tomorrow morning? I'll give you a call then. I guess that's managing.
Yeah, and that's, coming back to it being a family business. Like, okay, who's the manager?
Right.
And maybe it's not that simple. Like, people have their different roles or whatever, but.
Do you have I know we're getting to troubleshooting business stuff, but do you have roles in your family like you make them explicit?
In my businesses? Yeah.
Like your brother runs a property and you do painting, or your dad does.
Yeah, I would say that I try to make them explicit, or, they start with, hey, we can just figure all this out together. And then over time, we decide what needs to become explicit. When there are things that aren't working with just, I'll do it my way, you do it your way, and see what happens. That's kind of the default, right? We're just,
right.
We both have this goal and we'll do it. And then whatever doesn't work is when we have to figure out, okay, who's taking the lead on what.
Yeah, I think that's it's an interesting way into parts work too, right? Because there are actual managers, that you're trying to sort of figure out what they do and where do exiles come into it,
Yes. Yeah, where do exiles come in? Yeah. Probably those feelings like I'm a failure or my contributions aren't good enough. And
yeah, so like, if I have the feeling my contributions aren't good enough, and like I'm holding on to that, which is that's a pretty regular refrain in my head.
It's regular, it's powerful, it makes sense.
Yeah, it totally makes sense. And then when I'm working on a project, I'm really highly motivated to make my contributions seem valuable, because I'm like always working against an idea that they're not.
Yes.
But then I can't get back into the conversation about my exile in the middle of trying to make those contributions.
Right.
What's the point of saying, like, in the middle of just doing some dumb but necessary task to explain, well, I'm simultaneously worried that you're going to devalue my contributions. So that's why I'm trying to make them extra valuable, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And maybe in the moment it doesn't make sense. And maybe you don't have a relationship where you're with your brother where it ever makes sense. I don't know. But that, to me, that's the question is, what, in any relationship, how much am I seeing your, let's say, exiles, and how welcome are your parts here, and how welcome are mine. Yeah. When you say you don't trust him, I'm curious about that. Like, how much of that is don't trust him to do the DocuSign versus, I mean, feeling threatened by his physicality, or anything else that might, again, be more about kind of your own exiles and your own parts that are not feeling appreciated, and not, or feeling like there's no amount that I can do to feel good enough, for example.
I mean, it's definitely a collision of some very like ancient protectors in my brother and me from like from childhood. So like, his protectors seem almost as familiar to me as mine do,
Right. Absolutely.
And yeah, sometimes it's like the sibling that you've known forever. Both of you, or at least I feel like my brother and I look at each other like, are you like, I know you're a cause, you're like a little baby and you're like here looking like a huge Arnold Schwarzenegger person, and he's looking at me like, you're a little kid trying to pretend, to be like this New York professional.
Yeah.
And
you can both see those parts of each other.
Yeah.
And he knows how to push those buttons in you, or to provoke those parts.
Right.
And I'm sure you know how to, like you said, like, there's no joking about the workout stuff. You know what he's sensitive about. I mean, a moment ago you were saying, like, here's what he talks about in therapy. Like, sounds like you know him pretty darn well, right?
Yeah. I mean, it just seems possible also that the New York professional side of me and maybe the manager, this property manager side or aspiring property manager side, are protectors that I get away with more in my regular life, but that come undone more quickly when I'm faced with stuff like, I like to see birds the real way, not through an app, where like, I feel like if some friend of mine in tech said that, I would be like, oh, you're like so outdoorsy that you can't even like look at a screen for a second or whatever. It just would bother me way less. I would feel like way less judged, because I would just, how some groups, you like consent to let each other's protectors work,
right?
Because you're like, I know this isn't the whole you, but like, that's the job we're doing right now.
Right.
But I don't feel like I'm allowed to do. I feel like I'm like constantly called on the carpet to like shed blood or burst into tears or something.
Yes. That's what I meant by family business.
Okay. Okay. Right.
In regular business, it's like, all right, I'm hiring this part of you. leave that other part at home.
Yes.
And here's how we talk to each other at work, and see you tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yep. And
Right.
and workplaces really run well that way. I mean, there was nothing better than when I hired caregivers for my dad, because the hired caregivers were so much better at it than the rest of us.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't like all this leverage and passive aggression around,
whose turn
who was
is it
more
to change
helpful,
the
who was less
bed?
helpful, whose turn is it? Right,
Mm-hmm.
exactly. Or like,
Mm-hmm.
he asked me in the wrong tone, or, I can do this. And I mean, there's nothing, I like work for hire. I just think it works really well. And
absolutely.
it, and getting like actual licensed nurses assistants, LNAs in, and watching what they did, I was just blown away. I mean,
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Those are the upsides of the regular business. Earlier, you were mentioning like, here's the upsides of a family business might be the natural hierarchy and the trust. And I think, in theory, that is true if you trust each other.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Like you could have an ultimate trust. And maybe you do. Maybe like, well, my brother's never going to steal from me, but I still don't trust him to do these tasks, kind of thing.
Right. Yeah. I mean, my mother was like, we're going to get into this argument over inheritance and it's going to last forever. And I think there is zero chance of that. Like, I don't think I think you're right. I don't think he would steal. I don't think he's like in anything for the money. I think he like wants to prove himself. Oh shoot, we're over time. Yeah. Is it ready? Okay. Oh, I didn't even notice that. Okay. Well, this is actually really useful, even though it's not straightforward, because I just had been thinking that like you couldn't, I don't know, that like somehow it was like not true to the project of IFS to use these managers and protectors to get tasks done.
Yeah, I mean, this is my world, trying to figure out how to run my family businesses, and with IFS. So,
right. Yeah. With your external family system and your internal family system, and somehow make it all actually accomplish things in the world. Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, it seems like
figuring out how much parts work am I bringing to, I mean, explicitly, like you said, well, do I talk about this exile? Do I talk about this protector with this person? And when do I do that? And of course, I'm doing all of that in my unique way, but
yeah. I mean, I think that before you left, we talked about something, and it's still true now, that some habits, that I was trying to cultivate and really hard, and like using protectors and managers to get me to do them, that sort of after IFS or some IFS work, I started to be able to do those things, just like work on learning a language, which I had meant to do like for a certain number of minutes a day, exercise, etc. Meditation. And it started to be sort of in this like weird glide, like they just started coming to me instead of feeling like there was a protector talking to an exile, like with a whip in its hand, know?
Yeah.
And I don't know exactly how that happened, but there is a place in this exact property project where I imagine that I could get into that gliding state and just, be able to like have solutions occur to me intuitively. And, already some of that's happened,
Yeah.
So, but I think that that's going to take delegating to my brother, and also at least, I trust him enough with the DocuSign thing. He's also pulled off a few other things, like the party we had for my father. He did like so much planning, gave this beautiful eulogy, put together a slideshow. I just party planning, thumbs down for me. So if to the extent that there's that, I totally trust him. So there may be occasions for me to think about places that it wouldn't just be make work, that it would be actually needed things,
Right.
But the gliding is where I want to be. I don't, because I'm not usually bossing people. So
it's the toughest thing. It's so hard.
Wow. Okay. Well, we're going to talk about that next time. And you're going to text me the name of your Vietnamese pop singer, if possible.
Course. Yep.
And I would also like some more pictures because I love looking at them.
Okay. Yeah. As far as parts, you have the part that's super excited about it. I think that hearing from the parts that are not super excited about it is important as another trailhead.
Yeah. That's good. Yeah, they're there. I can feel them. They just snapped to attention when you said their name.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah.
I'll go on and see how they are.
Okay.
Thank you, James.
I'd like to do it again. If you would like to, I can get you back on the calendar.
Yes, please send it to me. Also, how great is the sound this time?
Really great. There were 2 or 3 moments of choppiness that were not too much of a big deal. And yeah, all good. Thank you.
Awesome. It's I really wanted to try this time.
Did great. Did great.
Okay. All right.
Nice talking with you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay.
Bye.
I'll be in touch. Bye.
Do you want to help bring more self-energy to the world? If you'd like to participate in calls or help out with this project in any way, I'd love to hear your ideas. Join the Discord server or contact me at james@liveifs.com. A huge thanks to our audio engineer, Yvonne, for your care and diligence in editing the calls. To every caller for your courage in sharing some of your parts. And to anyone out there getting to know their internal system, keep going. Who knows, that might be the most selfless, helpful thing you can do for others, and you're the only one who can do it. If you'd like to see us reach the largest audience, we must please the almighty suggestion algorithms at iTunes and YouTube, and they don't care about the power of IFS. They're looking for likes and shares and comments, and the sooner the better. Follow the links in the show notes right here in your podcast player to make your wishes known. And now, a minute of meditation. Or if you prefer, pull over. You can do it in 60 seconds. Just click one of those links. They're right there, and give us a like or a 5-star rating. It would really help. If you think this project is helping people, you're helping people by sharing it. Thank you.